one until I told years more. Tears are falling in my eyes, I try to rain. I leave on my way to the Lord of justice. I know I'm a Christian, my Lord. He shall make so. Even he handles me roughly by his grace. Makes me broken hearted by not being present before him. He's completely free to do anything near me. Rejoice and worship the Lord on the country. Maram Jai Shri Krishna Sankirtanam Ki Jai.
Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Reading from Sri Caitanya Charitamrita, the Nectarian Pastimes of Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu, by Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami, translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. Text 98. Krodahaya ekagela jagannatha dekite Dekiya murchita haya padila bhomite Krudahaya ekagila jagannatha dekite Dekiya murchita haya padila bhomite Padila bhumite Kudhahaya dekagela jagannatha dekite Dekiya muchita haya padila bhumite Kudhahaya kagela jagannatha dekite Dekiya muchita haya padila bhumite. Kudahaya ekagela jagannatha dekite Dekiya muchita haya padila bhumite. Ladies. Kudahaya ekagela jagannatha dekite Dekiya muchita haya padila bhumite Kudahaya ekagela jagannatha dekite Dekiya muchita haya padila bhumite Kudahaya ekagela jagannatha dekite Dekiya muchita haya padila bhumite. Krudha, angry. Haya, becoming. Eka, alone. Gila, went. Jagannath, Lord Jagannath. Dekite, to see. Dekiya, after seeing Jagannath. Murchita, senseless. Haya, becoming. Padila, fell down. Bhumite, on the ground. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. After his sannyas rod was broken by Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu apparently became very angry and left his company to travel alone to the Jagannath temple. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu entered the Jagannath temple and saw Lord Jagannath, he immediately lost his senses and fell down on the ground. Text 99. Sarvabhaumalaya gila apana bhavana Tritiya prahare prabhura hvaila chaitana. After Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu saw Lord Jagannath in the temple and fell down unconscious, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya took him to his home. The Lord remained unconscious until the afternoon, when he finally regained his consciousness. Text 100. Nityananda Jagadananda Damodara Mukunda Pache asi mile sabe paila ananda. The Lord had left Nityananda's company and gone alone to the Jagannath temple. But later Nityananda, Jagadananda, Damodar and Mukunda came to see him. And after seeing him, they were very pleased. Text 101. Tabe sarva bhaume prabhu prasada karila apana ishvara murti tanare dekhaila. After this incident, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu bestowed his mercy upon Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya by showing him his original form as the Lord. Text 102. Tabe te karila prabhu dakshina gamana kurmakshetre kaila vasudeva vimochana. After bestowing mercy upon Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the Lord started for southern India. When he came to Kurmakshetra, he delivered a person named Vasudev. Jayada Nusringhe Kaila Nusring Hastavana Pate Pate Grame Grame Nama Pravartana. After visiting Kurmakshetra, the Lord visited the South Indian temple of Jayada Nusringa and offered his prayers to Lord Nrsimhadev. On his way, he introduced the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in every village. Text 104. Godavari Tiravani Vrindavana Brahma Ramananda Raya Saha Tahani Milana. Once the Lord mistook the forest on the bank of the river Godavari to be Vrindavan. In that place, he happened to meet Ramananda Roy. Trimala Tripadi Stana Koila Darashana Sarvatra Karila Krishna Nama Pracharana. He visited the place known as Trimala or Tirupati, and there he extensively preached the chanting of the Lord's holy name. Purport: This holy place is situated in the district of Tanjore, South India. The temple of Tripadi is situated in the valley of Venkatachala and contains a deity of Lord Ramachandra. On top of Venkatachala is the famous temple of Balaji. Text 106. Tabeta pashandigane karyala dalana ahovalana shringadi kaila darashana. After visiting the temple of Trimala or Tripadi, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu had to subdue some atheists. He then visited the temple of Ahovala Nrsimha. Purport: The Ahovala temple is situated in Dakshinatya, in the district of Karnula, within the subdivision of Sabela. Throughout the whole district, this very famous temple is much appreciated by the people. There are 9 other temples also, and all of them together are called the Nava Nrsimha temples. There is much wonderful architecture and artistic engraving work in these temples. However, as stated in the local gazette, the Karnula manual, the work is not complete. Om Jnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. So after his sannyas rod was broken by Nityananda Prabhu, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu apparently became very angry and left his company to travel alone to the Jagannath temple. So here, in this first part of Madhya Lila, Srila Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is giving a synopsis of the pastimes of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And of course the Madhya Lila begins from Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu accepting the sannyas order at the age of 24. And later on, of course, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami will go into more detail. So here he's describing the few different pastimes and in a very short form. And this first one, as you may know, that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was traveling with Nityananda Prabhu and Jagadananda Mukunda, and the pastime goes that Lord Chaitanya had temporarily left the party. He wasn't right there at that moment. for some reason. And Nityananda was standing there holding his sannyas rod. And Nityananda Prabhu in his, who knows who is Lord Nityananda Prabhu? I'll give you a hint, he's standing on the altar there. Balaram. Huh? Ananta Shesh is on our altar? Oh, but he's also not, yes. So he's Lord Balaram, and he's in that mood of Lord Balaram. He became thinking, what is this? You've taken the sannyas order. We're meant to be running through the fields of Braj, playing games, playing tricks on the different devotees and having so many fun pastimes in Vrindavan. You have the peacock feather on your head, and you're dressed in so many wonderful garments, and we're eating and having so many fun pastimes. And here you've taken the dress of a sannyasi, just one simple cloth. And he, in his ecstasy of Lord Balaram, he said, "What is this sannyas?" And he broke the danda and threw it in the river. And so that river has come to be known to this day as the Danda Banga Nadi. Nadi means the river, and the Danda Banga means broken. It's like we have the Kol Banga. Kol Banga Danga, the place where the Mridangas were broken by the representative of Chandakazi. So this Banga is breaking. So many things. We see that word Banga is coming. So in his ecstasy he did that, and when Lord Chaitanya came back, he said, "Where's my danda?" And Nityananda Prabhu said, "I don't know where your danda is. Not sure what happened to that danda." So that's where we're hearing here that Lord Chaitanya became apparently very angry, and he more or less said, "You had one job, that was to look after my danda." He said, "I've come here as a preaching sannyasi to do this job, and you've broken my danda's become broken. So like this he became apparently angry, although of course internally he is very pleased by this mood of Lord Nityananda as Lord Balaram. But externally he's exhibiting his anger, and he said, "All right, you can all go ahead, or you can go behind, but I just want to go on my own. It's disturbing me that you disturbing my pastimes by doing such things as breaking my danda and things like that." So all the devotees were very humble, of course, and said, "All right, you go ahead, and we'll come a little later." So in this way, said the Leela of the Lord, he entered the Jagannath temple alone due to this pastime. And of course, when he saw Lord Jagannath himself, as being described here, Deki Murchita Haile Padila Bhuminte, he fell down on the ground. He saw Lord Jagannath, but he didn't just see Lord Jagannath, but he saw the original form of Lord Krishna in Vrindavan. And of course, we hear from Krishna's Kaviraj, Shri Radhara Bhavalana Chaitanya Avatar. He's taken this form of the topmost residents of Rajabhumi in their pure love and their pure separation, their separation from Krishna. So seeing Krishna again, just like when the residents of Vrindavan saw Krishna in Kurukshetra, they were extremely ecstatic. In the same way, he's seeing Lord Jagannath, but he's seeing his form. So then we see here that he's seeing his form as Lord Krishna, Brajendra Nandana. So then Lord Chaitanya was taken by Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya to his home, and he remained unconscious until the afternoon when he finally regained his consciousness. I was just listening to a class just this morning, and my spiritual master Jayapataka Maharaj, he's giving classes on, there's a book by Bhaktivinoda Thakur called, I think it's, I don't know, is anybody following that? Sri Chaitanya Shikshamrita, is it? What's that? What is it called? Shikshamrita? He's giving these classes in Mayapur at the moment on that on that book, and it's a very esoteric book. It goes into all the different types of ecstasy and the different higher levels of bhakti and devotion that is there. And in that book is described what is the real, spiritual emotion, and then what is this pretend emotion, that people who are pretending. And Jayapataka Maharaj was saying that when they were first in the Calcutta temple in the early days, then they would visit some different, Indian devotees' houses, and they were at one house, and this one man or one person who was a friend of the people just started rolling around on the floor and writhing and screaming and, "Oh, Krishna, Krishna, yes, I can see you taking me by the hand. Oh, Krishna," and he was rolling around on the floor. And all the devotees thought that this doesn't seem very real. He seems like it's just a kind of a performance. And so they all sort of one by one left the room. And then as all the audience sort of left the room, then all the ecstatic symptoms of this gentleman stopped. And it was seen that this was like an act on the stage, like an actor acting on the stage. So here we can see, and Lord Chaitanya he fell down into spiritual trance, and he stayed that way until the afternoon. So you can see hours and hours and hours. Lord remained unconscious until the afternoon, when he finally regained his consciousness. Once Srila Gadadhar Pandit, who's a member of the Panchatattva, we always chant the Panchatattva, Gadadhar Srivasadi. He was taken to see or have the audience of Pundarik Vidyanidhi, who was a very well-to-do person, had a lot of wealth, and in the place where he was sitting, he had a very beautiful seat that he was sitting, and there were all different things going on. He had beautiful clothes and scents and different, it was a very, very wealthy situation. And Gadadhar, who was a renunciate from birth, he was thinking in his mind that this guy is just a complete materialist. It's just a sense enjoyer. He can't be a devotee, because he'd been told by Mukunda, I believe, that was it Mukunda that told him that you should go and meet him. He's a great devotee. So in his mind he was thinking like this, and as he's watching and he's thinking this, one servant came out and started to he wasn't fanning him. He started talking. Somebody started talking about the pastime of. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Yeah. So Mukunda, he started telling the pastime of this Pashanti. What's her name? Putana. He started chanting this pastime of Putana, and how although she had come to kill Krishna, Krishna had given her a position of one of his mothers, like nurse, mother type position in the spiritual world eternally. And when Pundarik Vidyanidhi heard this, he immediately went into a genuine spiritual trance and fell off his high seat and remained that way for something like 6 hours or something, like a very, very long time. And so then, of course, Gadadhar could understand. So you see, in the pastimes of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, but even in the pastimes of his eternal associates as well, we see these genuine spiritual symptoms can be seen. And sometimes, one time Srila Prabhupada was in Mayapur, and he started talking about Lord Chaitanya and Lord Nityananda, and he went into, he lost external consciousness, and all the devotees are kind of sitting like, what do we do now, what do we do now? But, they started doing kirtan, and Srila Prabhupada came out of that internal consciousness, and he just said, chant Hare Krishna, and he went to his room, and he didn't say anything about it. He was, this is what the great devotees, they're not trying to show these symptoms, but sometimes it comes out. Also with Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, sometimes these symptoms would come out, even though he was trying not to exhibit them. He was trying to just do his preaching and so forth. These kind of things we don't hear about in the pastimes when we hear the description of nirvana, the Buddhistic nirvana, or the Mayavadi merging, things like that. This is particular to bhakti, right? The love of God, prema pumanto maham. These followers of Lord Caitanya, they're not just getting liberation from the material world, they're attaining pure love of God, Krishna consciousness, pure love of Krishna. This can only be gained by those who have it. So Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is exhibiting this. Shri Radhara Babalana Chaitanya Avatar. Then is described that the devotees came and met him. They were very pleased. And after this incident, Lord Chaitanya bestowed his mercy upon Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya by showing him his original form as the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna. Of course, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya preached the impersonal Vad, the impersonal philosophy to Lord Chaitanya for many, many days, until finally he said, my dear Sri Chaitanya, I'm sitting listening very attentively, but you're not saying anything, so I can't understand. I don't know, are you understanding this, or you understanding this Vedanta Sutra that I'm explaining to you? And Lord Chaitanya said, well, truth be told, my dear Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, I do, I'm very understanding of the Vedanta Sutra, but what you're saying, I can't really understand. I can't understand. You're clouding the meaning by all these indirect meanings. And he described the mukhya vritti and the gona vritti. The mukhya means the face. So on the face of it, we have in the legal jargon of our legal system, the concept prima facie, on the face of it. So the same concept is there. Mukhya vritti, on the face of it. What does something mean? Just its particular meaning. Krishna says, surrender to me. Mukhya vritti is just Krishna is a person. He's talking there on this battlefield to another person, Arjuna, and saying, surrender to me. This is just on the face of it. Gona vritti means when you make some interpretation of it. So the example is given that if you say there's a village on the Ganges, then on the mukhya vritti, on its direct meaning, it doesn't make sense. How can a village be on the Ganges? It will float away. So then we say, all right, the interpretation has to be given that it's a village on the bank of the Ganges. So this is the gona vritti, the indirect meaning. You have to make some interpretation. So he said like that, you're interpreting all these statements of the Vedas that are very, very clear. But actually, you don't have to interpret. This is not allowed. You have to accept the direct meaning of the Vedas. And he explained the Vedanta Sutra from the bhakti, the clear perspective of, and Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya appreciated this very much, and he surrendered to the Lord and said, okay, you are my guru. You are the one that understands this properly. Okay, then text 102. After bestowing mercy upon Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, the Lord started for southern India. When he came to Kurukshetra, he delivered a person named Vasudeva. So in southern India, now called Andhra Pradesh, which is about maybe 300-400 kilometers south of Puri, there is this deity called Kurma deity, and Lord Chaitanya then did two very famous pastimes. One is mentioned here, that he delivered a person named Vasudeva, who was a leper who was suffering very greatly. He'd heard that Lord Chaitanya was there, and he went there to meet him, but when he came there, he'd heard that Lord Chaitanya had just left that morning. And he just started crying and just lamenting. And Lord Chaitanya, through his omniscience, understood that. And he turned around, he actually came back, and he embraced this Vasudeva, and he cured him of all his leprosy, his extreme physical ailment and also gave him love of Godhead as well. Gave him pure bhakti as well by embracing him. So it's a very famous pastime. Also, when Krishnadas Kaviraj is explaining these pastimes, he explains in more detail these first few places the Lord met at Kurmadesh and so forth. And then he says, wherever he went in South India, he did the same thing. So he explains there, he says that verse, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, that Lord Chaitanya was chanting this on the road. Whoever he would meet, he would, give them the mercy, tell them to chant Hare Krishna mantra, and tell them to practice Krishna consciousness. The very famous verse that he spoke to the Kurma Brahmana at this place, at Kurma Kshetra, Yare deke tahe kaha Krishna upadesh, amara agyaya guru hana tara edesh. That whoever you meet, whoever you see, tell them the instructions of Krishna, Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and in this way you become a guru and deliver this entire land. Srila Prabhupada would many, many times quote this verse when people would ask, what does it take to be a guru? What is a guru? And Srila Prabhupada would quote this verse, that it's a very simple matter, that you don't make up anything of your own, you don't create some philosophy, but you simply repeat the words that Krishna has given in Bhagavad Gita and Bhagavatam, and in this way you become a guru. That's why a guru is like a postman, post woman or post person, whatever you want to say in today's. But a post, somebody that gives the post, that gives the letter, is they're not opening the letter, and changing. There's a letter comes from someone, and the postman, you see, he's out there changing. I don't think this is a good letter. I think I'll change the letter and write something else. That's better. You don't see the proper postman is not doing that. Or the postman, one time when Srila Prabhupada was in very early days in New York, the devotees went to post a letter that Prabhupada had given them, and there was a small hole in the envelope. And the devotees said, "Oh, Prabhupada, Swamiji, I think at the time, we should get another letter, this a hole." And Prabhupada explained to them that no, this hole is there, so the post people that get it, when it gets to India, can see it's just a letter there. There's no money in there. And then it'll actually get to the place. So like that, sometimes if the post person is not honest, then they might actually take something out of the letter. So like that, the guru, he's not taking things out of the letter, he's not adding to the letter, he's just delivering the letter, how it is. So this is the definition of the guru, and very famous verse that Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave in this place, Kurma Kshetra, to the Kurma Brahmana. I was very fortunate to visit Kurma Kshetra just in my, when I was just visiting Jagannath Puri there, due to the largely mercy of my wife, who looked after the house for a month and let me go. Anyway, she's not going to appreciate that, but that's a fact. But when we went to the Kurma temple, which was, just as a side note, was very different to all the temples in Puri, where you were not allowed anywhere near the temple. Actually, in Lalanath temple was interesting that I went with someone from the ISKCON temple, and we got sort of to the front of the temple, and then the Pandit was very nice, and he said, "Oh, this is where you stop, you can't go in." And then got out his phone and showed me all the pictures of the temple, of the deity on his phone, and showed, "Oh, this is me in front of the deity, so this is me." I was thinking, if I'm such a malecha to come to the deity, why are you kind of showing me that? Why are you trying to impress me? Anyway, it was funny, but he was very nice, and that's a very incredible deity. It's actually a Chaturabhuj, four-handed Vishnu form. It's incredible that place. Alalanath, who I think Alalanath Prabhu was actually meant to give class yesterday, but due to the rain, so. But anyway, when we went to the common deity, the Bajari is very nice, and the deity, he's big, he's a tortoise form, right? He's long, it's about this long, and he's just covered in so much sandalwood. So the Pujari actually took some sandalwood from the deity and gave it to me. This is that, from this deity they're talking about here. So I'll keep this here after the class, if anyone wants to touch that sandalwood to their head. This is from the actual Kurma deity that's being described, that we're talking about here. And interestingly, in this regard, if anyone has an interest or in Jyotish or Vedic astrology, that the Kurma deity, the Kurma incarnation of the Lord is representative of this energy of Saturn, of being able to be fixed, to have the fixed determination. While Krishna can give empowerment to anyone, but it's interesting that if we see in the charts of Srila Prabhupada and charts of other devotees, notably one devotee who's leading our project here as well, Saturn is extremely strong. So if we see the Kurma avatar, just like we see the Nrsimha avatar, he is the incarnation of the Lord's anger, right? Divine anger, protecting the innocent person. That godly anger is personified, is exhibited by Lord Nrsimhadev, and the devotees pray to Lord Nrsimhadev. We have Lord Nrsimhadev here on the altar. The Kurma avatar, his particular empowerment is that he is able to hold things together, to be steady and hold things. We know the pastime of the churning of the milk ocean, where the Devas and the Daityas were there trying to churn this churning rod, and it wasn't fixed, it was going all over the place. And then the Lord came as Kurma, and he fixed that. He supported the bottom of that churning rod, that sacrifice they were doing. He came and he held that up, and he supported, and he was that steady force to hold that sacrifice. So this is the empowerment. In the same way we pray to Lord Nrsimhadev for protection, we can pray to Lord Kurma for the determination, the fixedness to keep us in that arena of sacrifice, to be strong and hold our sacrifice strong, that we can remain. Of course, Lord, Krishna consciousness is not a sprint, it's a long distance race. We need to be able to hold in that arena of sacrifice and not get chopped off like that churning rod without Lord Kurma in it. There's a little description of Lord Kurma that comes in the 8th canto, chapter 5, texts 9 and 10. And I'll just read this. Canto 8, chapter 5, text 9. In the 6th Manvantar incarnation, in the 6th Manvantar millennium, Lord Vishnu, the master of the universe, appeared in his partial expansion. He was begotten by Vairaja in the womb of his wife Deva Sambhuti, and his name was Ajita. By churning the ocean of milk, Ajita produced nectar for the demigods. In the form of a tortoise, he moved here and there, carrying on his back the great mountain known as Mandara. King Parikshit inquired, O great Brahmana, Shukadev Goswami, why and how did Lord Vishnu churn the ocean of milk? For what reason did he stay in the water as a tortoise and hold up Mandara mountain? How did the demigods obtain the nectar? And what other things were produced from the churning of the ocean? Kindly describe all these wonderful activities of the Lord. You can see here, this is one name of Ajita, one name of Lord Kurma. Well, that's his name, Ajita. It's the name of Lord Kurmadev, and has that ability or that potency to hold the sacrifice together, to be steady in that place and have the sacrifice going on. So like this, all of the different Dasavatar incarnations of the Lord have their particular empowerment, and certainly Kurma Dev is a very important avatar, and we can hear about his pastimes to help us to be steady in our practice of yajna, Sankirtan Yoga. After visiting Kurmakshetra, the Lord visited the South Indian temple of Jayada Nrsimha and offered his prayers to Lord Nrsingadev. On his way, he introduced the chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in every village. Once the Lord mistook the forest on the bank of the river Godavari to be Vrindavan. In that place, he happened to meet Ramananda Roy. So this is further down. If you can just look on Google Maps or whatever, you can see that this is further. I think this river Godavari now is called Alakananda. Is that right? Does anybody know what that's called? If you go to Google Maps, it's called there's one really big river in South India, the biggest river, and it has various tributaries. Anyway, if you look at that biggest river, I think it's Alakananda, but that's what it's called now, but this is the same river, Godavari. There is, Bhaktivedanta Saraswati Thakur established a mutt there, and I believe that ISKCON has now established a temple there, at that place where Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met. He visited the place known as Trimala or Tirupati, and there extensively. So just to note that Ramananda Roy was, does anybody know who was Ramananda Roy? What is he in a different incarnation? Mm-hmm. Yeah, and Arjuna, yeah, very good, yeah. So he's the friend of the Lord, eternal friend of the Lord Arjuna. He's also the eternal associate of Srimati Radharani. So Lord Chaitanya is a combined form of Sri Krishna, Srimati Radharani together. So he was Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar were the two closest associates. And when Lord Chaitanya met Ramananda Roy, he immediately understood that was his eternal associate. And both of them, embraced and were crying tears of divine love. But Lord Chaitanya could understand that, there were other people present. Ramananda Roy was a minister in the government, in fact, the prime minister of this, in the government of the Pandya kings. What's his name? Prataparudra Maharaj. And there were many other people there, so Lord Chaitanya became, a little shy to exhibit his full emotion, and he said to Ramananda Roy, can you come back later and we can talk? And therefore he came back by himself that night, and they discussed Krishna and Krishna's pastimes for many, many hours. And in fact, he asked him right then and there to come back and stay with him in Puri. There's the very famous discussion between Ramananda Roy and Lord Chaitanya, where Lord Chaitanya says, what is the perfection of life? And Ramananda Roy says, to follow Varnashram perfectly is the perfection. And Lord Chaitanya says, can you go further? And he goes through all the different levels of bhakti, and finally to the pure bhakti of the residents of Vrindavan, who, although Krishna left, they still were completely given their hearts to him. And there was no material motive, there was no material anything. They just loved Krishna fully, and that full exhibition of that love, that spiritual love was exhibited, and Ramananda Roy explains all these different levels. So it's a very famous conversation. You can read that sometime. And many of you have read that, I'm sure. But so Ramananda Roy, he went back to Puri to stay with Lord Chaitanya, and Maharaj Prataparudra, the king, he heard about this, and he was very happy to facilitate. Although Ramananda Roy was his, taking so much of the weight of the management, still he said, that's okay, you go and stay with, you can be with Lord Chaitanya. And he said, and I'll double your salary. So he allowed him to leave the government service, but he gave him twice as much salary to just go and stay with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was obviously his heart softened towards Maharaj Prataparudra. These things are also not just written about in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. In terms of Lord Chaitanya's dealings with the Pandya kings who had a huge empire which went from basically the border of Bengal right down into South India. And this is one of the reasons why, if you go to Puri, you see the culture is so preserved there, because the kings had preserved that Vedic culture in that Puri, in that kingdom, from many hundreds of years after most of India had become influenced and governed by the followers of Muhammad, coming from the west, coming from Persia region, but they had maintained very strong kings in that area. But if you read even the history, even on the Wikipedia page, you can read about that one of the reasons given for that empire becoming weaker and eventually breaking up was that the king became just so enamored by his spiritual life with Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. It's just historical, in fact you can read that there. And so this king, Maharaj Pratapruja, and many pastimes you can read, we won't go into it all here, but this is one of those that he gave his blessings for Ramananda Roy to stay with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as his associate. And so, go on to text 105, 106. After visiting Trimala, Tirupati, he had to subdue some atheists, then he visited the temple of Ahovala Nrsimha. I haven't been to this temple, but I very much want to. There's also he visited also this temple called Singhachalam, which is after the Kormadidi in Vishakhapatnam. There's that I have visited many years ago. It's an incredible, very ancient Nrsimha temple. Actually combined Nrsimha Varaha form there, that deity. So there's 9 temples in the Nava Nrsimha temple, so I have to go and visit that and pay our respects sometime. So is there any questions or comments? Or yes, bro. We got a microphone? He's getting a microphone. Yeah. Next. Oh, you want to say that? Sorry? The other names for the Ganga? Oh, Godavari. Yeah. Dakshina Ganga. Yeah, but there's a like legal name now. If you look on Google Maps, it's called Alakananda or something like that. That it's not called Dakshin Ganga. Dakshin means south and Ganga, so that would be like the devotional name for it. But there's a sort of legal name, which is something else. It's not Godavari or that. If you just look at the main river in South India, like the biggest river in South India, it's that one. There's many tributaries, but one of them is this place where Lord Chaitanya met.
I know Alakananda runs through Badrinath, so I don't know if that's the same river.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's probably not that, but yeah. There's some, anyway, I'll find it. Literally you can just Google it, but I'm just saying that it's not called Godavari now for most people. Yeah.
So that mantra where you chant the 6 names of the holy rivers to turn water into, I don't know if that's a valid...
Godavari, Saraswati, Namade, Sindhu, Kavadi, Jalashmin,
So Godavari's in there, so people... Anyway, so I've heard that...
No, it's still called that, like we would call it that.
Okay.
I'm just saying if you go on Google Maps, you won't find Godavari. That's all I'm saying. It's called something else.
So I've heard with Lord Nityananda, he, with the breaking of the danda, so he's thinking that, my Lord, why is he carrying a danda? He's the Supreme Personality Godhead, he doesn't need that. Yes. And on top of that, he's thinking, well, he took initiation in a Mayavad lineage, so it's an ek danda. So therefore, he didn't just break the danda, he broke it into 3 pieces. So it's a tree danda now. Yes. So he's thinking, well, if he has to have a danda, at least make it a tree danda.
Yeah.
So, anyway.
And then threw it in the river. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, there's so many little details and nuances of that pastime. Somebody else has a question or comment? Yeah.
Thank you so much. I have a comment and a question. So, thank you, Babu. I always knew the name Ajita meant controller, but I didn't know it was the name of Korma. So thank you for that. And now my question is that Korma I also represents controlling, turtles represent controlling of the senses because they can tuck everything in. So
Where does it say that?
Well,
No, I know that that's in the Gita, but I'm just saying, is that in relation to Korma avatar? Is that said?
it's just maybe it's just a fact that that's what
Yeah.
Korma, turtles represent. That they can,
definitely in the Gita, that's the example that Krishna gives,
So,
just as a tortoise.
Yeah, so my question is, sorry, I just lost where I was saying. So, from controlling your senses, do you get those qualities of determination and strength and what you were mentioning? Yeah. Is that what you would say? Could you make a comment of controlling the senses then?
Yeah, I mean, of course, our main process is a positive one of attaching ourselves to Krishna consciousness. So we don't just control the senses on their own, like that's Buddhism. So if we just focus on controlling the senses, then Krishna says, what is that verse? I can't remember the Sanskrit, but he says, if you just mechanically control the senses, then... Huh? No, not that. No, the one that rasa vrajam rasopyasha param drishva nivartate. Vishya vinivartante niraharasya deina rasa vrajam rasopyasha param drishva nivartate. So the focus is always on the positive attachment of Krishna consciousness. Our process is a process of attachment. It's not a process of detachment. The process of detachment is within the process of attachment. Does that make sense?
So what you're saying is to control the senses, use them in Krishna's service.
Yes, that's control the senses. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, controlling the senses means using them in Krishna's service. That's what the Vaishnava path is. So it's not like, oh, I can't do that. And like in terms of our, if you want to say psychology or our, emotional wellness, psychology start of it, if we focus too much on not that, not this, not that, we just become very dry, as Lord Chaitanya explains. That's what, I've seen them too. And, sometimes you see them walking out of the movement because you see their back as they walk. Because how much can you just, no. So that is a part of the process, of course. How much in the Bhagavatam, the Nava Yogendras, all this, hogs, dogs, camels and asses, all this stuff is there, for sure, obviously. Because that's the side of shocking us into realizing that there's no permanent happiness in this world. It's a temporary, temporary body, temporary happiness, all this stuff, and it's incomplete. That's there, but that is within or a part of the attachment to chanting the holy name. And when as Krishna is saying, rasa varjam raso piyasya. Like, even though trying to give up that rasa, that material enjoyment, whatever it is, rasa vajam, raso apyasya, that taste is still there. The taste for it is still there. Like, you can tell the kid, you shouldn't eat sweets, you shouldn't eat sweets, you shouldn't eat sweets. He's still going to eat sweets. Or you shouldn't eat lollies, but you give him a nice Burfi Mahaprasadam, then it's like, oh, that's okay. All right, that's it. So, param drishva nivate. Param means supreme, drishva literally means seeing. Drishva means to see, right? But it means to experience. Param drishva nivatate. Nivate, give up. So the renunciation is very natural for a devotee, because it's like the same thing, like you give a kid, like sometimes the kids, I know they've gone off now, but they're going for prasad. But sometimes they'll be playing with some rock or some stick or something, and you try to take them off they're getting a rasa. They have the whole thing. But then you get some actual proper toy that has some different colors and different things. They just drop it without even thinking, So although we do, controlling the senses is a part of our process, that is how we have to do it. But as you say, controlling the senses means using them in Krishna service. And of course we have to avoid simple activity. If a devotee is engaged, or anybody's engaged in very tamasic, eating, all those four simple things, then they can't, they're just being covered over. But the real process is attachment to Krishna, especially the holy name. So whatever, we get a taste, we have to try to cultivate a taste. And in how that holy name is beautiful, is wonderful to chant that. When you're chanting nicely, it's really wonderful. So whenever we have that feeling about that, we should cultivate that, fan that little spark. And then the other things just, it's like, it's just not comparable, Was a Bhakti Namachari Haridas Thakur, right? He was allured by Maya Devi herself. And he was just like, I got the holy name, what can Maya do? So that's the process. But of course, the process of in answer to the question, yes, if we're not controlling the senses, there's no question of determination. There's no determination. There can't be. So yeah.
I'm just reflecting a little bit what I'm getting. So, like if that we're getting tested by our senses, a chocolate bar or whatever it is, that maybe we don't need to have. So at that point, would you suggest that we pray to Krishna with the holy name, Krishna, help me, like that? I'm just trying to get to a practical stage, like if your senses are getting tested, it seems like your intelligence has to kick in, but ultimately to get over that sense, what you may want to engage in, you have to engage it in Krishna's service, but you have to think, well, okay, I can engage it in Krishna's service to have a burfi, but...
Well, there's always two options. There's the options, like you said, of using your intelligence to say, I don't need this is not prasadam, I don't want it, blah, blah, blah. There's that side, and then there's a side to engage that in Krishna service, which is to eat a burfi. So you do both, right? Ishopanishad verse 11 is very helpful in this regard, because it just lays it out like totally clear that you have to develop the spiritual taste and you have to give up the material. And by giving up the material, understanding this material world, how the attractions and all so on are working, you can get free from birth and death. And by understanding the spiritual, you can enter into the spiritual world. But sa ubaya, it says both have to be there. You can't just do one or the other. You can't just be constantly, no, it's all about the material world. I'm going to give this up, I'm going to give that, or whatever. You end up just dry, like impersonalist. You can't just be, it's all about just Krishna, I'll eat every burfi in town and this and that, and it's all, then you become like Sahajya. You have to have some restriction. So if we think in that way, at least to my mind, like the way my mind thinks, I find that really helpful to think about, okay, am I dealing in the level of sense control, pancharatra, all that stuff, or am I dealing with directly Krishna's holy name? And they're both useful, and according to where we're like, just what is more useful. We can't go too far one way or the other. Yeah. Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Jai Shri Caitanya Caritamrita ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. If you want to come and touch this kurma, Dave, sandalwood to your head. Thank you.